the record button and it works. All right, so an official good afternoon. We have been kind of chatting there about NEBOSH and some of the NEBOSH courses and the closing interview and the requirements to have your cameras on. Like I said, please try to comply with that as it is a NEBOSH requirement. We do allow you all because we know it's home and the time of the day is lunchtime. So you may be having a late lunch. If you're not having a late lunch, don't, eat on the recording. Right? Definitely turn off your cameras a bit. Have something to eat and you can come back up when it's convenient to you, right? So I mentioned that was the first 15 minutes of the class talking about that, and you need to have the closing interview with the identity check. That's something that they do. So they had to be able to verify that the person on screen then is the person in the ID card, right? Anyway, back to theory. I was saying, and I said it off the record, that today we should be moving into 3.4. 3.4 is your start of the theory for the project, right? So on the recap then, because this lesson from last week, so if we go straight back up, I think maybe to the learning outcomes, you'd have seen 3.1, describe the concept of, let me just bring this up a bit bigger for you, right? Describe the concept of health and safety culture and how it influences performance. I'll ask a question on that just now. Summarize how health and safety culture at your work can be improved. We can ask a question on that too, but we will just ask one and get to today's work, right? Summarizes 3.3, the human factors which positively or negatively influence behavior at work in a way that can affect health and safety. So we're doing that now. And then 3.4 is on another PowerPoint. I think from what you all said, and I did check the register, I think you all said I had sent you all the PowerPoints. If not, somebody will help me remember if you have, or if I sent it to you this week. I did, like I said, when I came back Friday, I did some stuff, but I would have to check I normally mark it on the rule, right? But I don't have the register in front of me. The coordinator has the rule. I'll check in a bit. If you don't have lesson 7, you let me know. I think it marks 7 and 8 in it. I'll send it to you after the class. But I believe you have it because I think you all said I'd sent it to you all before, right? So where we are at is 3.1. I said I had a question to ask you. Let me ask that question now. It is actually the same question I asked last week when I started class, which was, what are the 2 main contributing factors to culture from 3.1? Who then contributes to safety culture? And one of you
Managers
had
and the
answered that last
employees.
week. Right. Okay. Say it again, please.
Managers
Yeah.
and the employees.
Okay, very good. Right. So that was the question from last week. The same question I asked, right? And so hopefully you all remember the formula, because you could think of it like a formula that culture is equal to the individual values, which is you, the worker, times, right? They had the product in maths mean to multiply. So we say times that of the values of the manager. And if you have like a good collaboration, then, right? The company has a positive culture and you have a positive attitude as well. You're going to end up with a positive safety culture in that company. But we did mention in 3.1, from time to time, as life would happen, things become unstable. So in some cases, the manager may not be supporting the safety, and in some cases, the safety may not be fully in sync then with the goals of the company, and you end up with a negative safety culture, right? That negative safety culture could result in things like absenteeism, high number of complaints. It may lead to things, like overlooking safety and resulting in accidents and whatever have you, right? So that was the concept in 3.1. I said I wouldn't do 3.2 because that was last week class and you may have that on the recording. And to do a full review, we may just take the same amount of time as a class itself. So let's go to 3.3. Where we left it, though, if you look at this slide, you may be able to remember them. So we did safety representative. Anybody remember that? We looked at the orange and green table in the textbook, if you remember that. Could anybody remember which one have more function than the other one? Is it the safety rep or the representative of employee safety? Which one of these are really the safety rep?
Has a more
Right. Very good. Very good, right? And anybody could remember why? Why is it that that person have could do inspections and could do risk assessments. And why could that person do those things?
These
I'll even
safety
decide.
workers are actual assigned well, safety member or safety representative. The representative of employee safety is more like somebody that they assign to bring problems to higher management.
Yeah, very good. Well said, right? Well said. I would love to have some of you all. I put in a plug here, as they call it, a shameless plug. We like to have some of you all in our other courses as well, right? But to let you all know, right, our degree class is full. We are struggling right now to set up 2 classes because the class is that full. 30 students, we're gonna have to go 15 by 15, right? But as NEBOSH for you anyway, right? But oil and gas is booking, process safety is booking. If anybody has interest in the diploma, you're going to have to probably go next year, right? Next year, February, there are 2 intakes for the year because we are the only school offering it. It's filled sometimes with our students, but if not our students, Cipriani, anybody else then, Costa, right? And safe if they still are wrong, ATC students, right? So the degree always has like a waiting list. Like that list, I tell you, it was waiting since like 3, 4 months, and there are 15 students waiting to start on top of another 15, right? Anyway, I think we did training too last week. Right. So even though we love to have you in the diploma is actually filled, right? We did training, we covered this typical contents of an induction training. What would you tell workers who visit your company or the first time worker? We covered all of this already, right? So where we left it was here, 3.3, right? So when we left this last week, Saturday, I did mention that even though this is 3.3, how human factors influence, like a new heading, we did it already. And I want to show you where and I want to show you how, right? So let's go into it. If you have your books, could you just ready line it up? I'll kind of synchronize the book a bit. 3.3. And you'll see what I was talking about. And in a way, we kind of did this already. So I'm on 319, 318, 318. Yeah. See if you can get it as well. Let's have a go, right? I'm going to read a couple of slides and then explain, and then you'll see what I mean by we did it already. So human factors. So human factors involve the following factors that could influence behavior at work in a way that could affect health and safety. Human factors include, just think about what you're reading, the job, the individual, and the organization. Individuals bring to their job their personal attitude, their skills, their habits, their personalities, their medical health, what again, their families, right? Right? Their loved ones sometimes visit them in the company. So people come in, people working for a company normally bring a lot of stuff with them, right? The above may have a negative effect on task performance, competence, individual capabilities, again, individual factors then, right? Try not to explain too much, but I mean, I have to because I wanted to know what you're looking at, right? You as an individual, then it's not just your physical, stature, right? So, like, if you look at these terms here, attitude, skills, habits, personalities, that's more, like a psychological thing then, right? So when you work for a company, you carry to that company your habits, right? So, I mean, some of it may be changed. Some of it may be changed. I'm thinking because let's say you're somebody that like you're never on time. You have people like that. Like you're never on time. People who know me other than today, well, I told you I wanted a couple minutes, right? But if I tell you I'm coming by your office for 9 o'clock, I'm there 9 o'clock. I'm not there 1 minute past 9. I'm there 9 o'clock, right? So like as an employee, then like you have that habit, right? So like if you're always fashionably late, that would be your habit in the company too now. But that's nothing about stature, right? So the point I'm trying to say is that individuals, we have different facets to us, right? We have our physical nature, but then you also have your psychological nature. So when you watch this slide, attitudes, skills, like personalities, right? Personalities is really something intrinsic, right? That's like your God-given ability, right? So what is your personality like? There's really nothing I think we could do in safety that would address that, because personality types are personality types, and we wouldn't even want to try because your personality is what makes you who you are, right? So we wouldn't even want to try it out. Part of this lesson is about that, so you probably will understand what I'm talking about in a bit, right? So we do try to change your attitude, right? That's why we have safety meetings. We do try to change your attitude. That's why they have videos to look at about safety. But we don't try to change your personality. That's just who you are anyway. The point is, when I was telling you last week that if I don't know if you saw it as yet, that what we did here is what we did already. See if you're seeing it. Because culture is what? Culture is the individual and the culture is the individual and the what? It's on the slide, people. Culture is the individual and the okay, you all have to answer the organization, yeah. Okay, so that's another thing that I got full marks for in my audit, right? They said whenever I asked a question, I didn't leave it until you all answered, right? Students, though you all are not getting the mark things, hopefully NEBOSH will pick up on that and call you all, right? But they said whenever I ask a question, I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize that about me. Like when I ask a question, like I wouldn't leave it until you all give an answer, right? Anyway, so yeah, so remember, if you look at this, culture is the individual and the organization. But what you're seeing today, if you have your book, if you don't have your book, watch this slide, right? What you're seeing today, this new term that they call human factors is the same thing, is the individual and the organization. However, if you just put one more term with it, which is the job, then you make up what is called human factors. I'll say that again. Two of them by themselves, the individual and the organization, makes up culture. But if you put a third one, which happens to be the first one here, if you put a third entity with the individual and the organization, the three of them collectively are referred to as human factors. If you watch your book a bit, those of us who have it, you would see like there's a relationship. Page 18, you see they try to draw. Anybody remember what a Venn diagram looks like? That is something like a Venn diagram. But there are better versions of that, right? Like at the diploma level, we draw it like a subset. Anybody remember that? A subset? So like if you draw it as a Venn diagram, I think the larger circle, this is how they do it at the other levels, right? The larger circle represents the organization. If you want, you could write this down. This is for you to understand, and I'll tie in the question in a bit. So the larger circle is the organization. So you can think of that as wherever you want to think of it as, right? Massey, Guyana Shorebase, Exxon, BP, Atlantic LNG, Truman, right? So you are here because you are working for the organization. So you are like a subset. I just put you here, right? Or could I just, here what I put on the outside, right? So that's you. You are working for the company. And as I was telling you, like today's lesson is it's kind of like influencing your behavior. So we do try to change your attitude if you have not the correct attitude towards safety. Then if they say put on the hard hat and you do put it on, but every opportunity you get, you take it off. That might not be the best example, right? Maybe it's something more refined. Like for example, you are not filling out your JSAs, you're not following the safe system of work. So if they pick that up, now they will talk to you, but they could also train you. They could show you a video of someone who did not, remember we did that last week, folks? Verbal, written, and graphic. See if I remember, verbal, written, and graphic, right? So they could show you a video of somebody who didn't use the proper method and work, right? So maybe you're on a conveyor, but you're squeezing down the thing, right? There's a lot of things like that. And you're not supposed to do that. You're just supposed to let the conveyor roll and you would just put your products on it, right? And when you saw the video, so somebody hand got entangled and crushed. I have those videos as well, right? But by you watching the video, then you would understand, oh, that's why we have to just gently push the boxes and not really, squeeze the boxes through the conveyor, right? So we do try to change your attitude. Remember the same concept of verbal, written, and graphic. And what we're saying today, you are working for the company. Let's put Massey here, just for fun anyway, or wherever is convenient for you all anyway, right? So you are working for the company, and what we're saying is that you bring to the company you bring to the company your habits, your skills, your attitudes, your family. Yes, your family. Family just come and visit you in the company, right? You bring a whole set of baggage with you. You bring your medical status, you bring your fears, you bring your traumas, you bring your emotional disturbances to the company. Yeah. The companies have to deal with you, right? But what you're seeing today, folks, if you understand that you are now working for the company, at least hopefully so, right? Yeah, because some people just come to work, but just be doing other things. You ever come across somebody like that? You come to work, but you're working your own work, right? But we are hoping, based on this slide here, you are working for the company, so you are doing the job of the company. So this is how it's like a subset then. So the job is what you should be doing. You are doing that job, but you're not doing your own thing. You're doing the job, and the job is a part of what really the job for. It's a part of what you are doing, but it's a part of the organization too, right? So there's a picture in your book. Did you all see it? I didn't, I mean, every level is different. I tend to like the way it's presented on my slide. There's a nice little one here too, right? Those of us with the book, I mean, we all have books. Everybody in this class has your textbook, right? That's a good way of thinking about it anyway, right? Let's move on with the explanation. I will tie in the exam question in a bit, right? Um, or do you want me to do it now? Because I have a bit more explanation to go. Anyway, let me try to finish it and I'll come back and I'll revisit how this have come for exam before, right? So we only point that you bring to the company a lot of things about you, your language. Yes, we have an accent, education, experiences, competence, your medication level, right? Not every, I mean, and it doesn't have to be an old worker, right? People are sometimes, born with certain issues, medical disabilities. I shouldn't really say disabilities, right? I would say probably different abilities, right? Somebody that has asthma is not any fault of them, but they are safety, but you have asthma. So that you are to let the company know that you can't really work around a dusty environment. What about certain, I'll come to it, right? Certain stresses, phobias, fears, right? What about if you have a fear of heights, but you had to go up on a tank or a vessel, but you have a fear of heights, right? Now, I don't know if you know what the rule here is never to force anybody, but you have to declare it to the company now. You have to say, well, I think, I wasn't comfortable in that space, right? That vessel, whatever. I felt claustrophobic or whatever, or I wasn't comfortable at a height. Look today, a girl called me. Well, she was a student here. She's now a safety for a company, a catalyst company. She called me just around lunchtime today. I remember just when she got her first safety job, she went up on a height and she froze. She froze on top there. She froze on a vessel, as I mentioned the tank example, right? And anyway, a long story there. But everybody, but the thing is, you have to let them know now, right? Like once you let them know that you're not comfortable, this is who you are, and they shouldn't fire you because remember, these things are, I don't know if you know, these things about you is what makes up you. So nothing is wrong with that. We just have to tell them that, I'm not comfortable working on height or whatever. I prefer, and they will work with you and assign another safety. That's how it is in the companies. I was saying personality, and this is something that we would never intend to change, right? We change your attitude, but we never want to change your personality. That's who you are. That's who you are. That's who you are. Um, like it or leave it, as they would say, right? Because although some of us may like somebody's personality to change, but it's not the job of safety to get into there are behavioral programs and stuff, but this is not the field for that. That's like psychology, right? But for me, nowhere in the syllabus touches that in terms of personality, changes and stuff like that. But we more look at your attitude, right? So as much as we may want to work a personality to change, that's not our place anyway. And I think that's what makes you who you are. I would never want anybody to change or say that they should change, because what's the good then in having somebody that acts just like you and does everything that you do and things the same way as you do? That's really no fun. I think the fun is, kind of getting, that worker that's different, that has a different viewpoint to you anyway, right? So personality is not the subject of this class, but it is something about you. So we have it on this line. There's a little bit on it about what makes up you as well, right? All right, moving on, moving on. By the way, um, the degree program, right? The level 6, that full, there's a whole subject on that. Yes, we do study a bit of psychology, workplace psychology as well, right? The work of people like Abraham Maslow, just something for the degree, right? Some people you would know Decker, Sidney Decker, Sidney. They could Google it now. The work of certain psychologists, right? But that's not really in the remit of the certificate course. But it's nice to know that psychology is a part of safety as well, right? All right, check this out. You bring to the company all of this: your height, your weight, your strength, your fitness, your age, like it or leave it, right? Your disabilities, your gender, your medical conditions, right? Um, as I said, I don't know if you all know all of this, but some of these are what you call a protected characteristic, meaning, in fact, to be honest, I think most of these are protected characteristics, right? And I don't know if you know what that means. It means you cannot discriminate. You cannot discriminate hiring somebody based on gender, disability, a medical condition, right? It's a protected characteristic even in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm not sure for Guyana, but Trinidad and Tobago, we have almost the same laws as the UK. Well, the same laws, we just call it different things. The UK call it the Equality Act. We would say like, equality and stability, right? So we have those regulations, they have the act right in the UK, and these are protected characteristics. So do you all understand so far? You cannot discriminate against anybody, right? Do you all want one more? You want one more for this list? It have a really interesting one. It has a lot of interest in it going on now with the Olympics. Do you want one more or you don't want one more?
Yes,
What
sir.
did you say? Yeah. Well, another thing about a person today, well, remember we live in you may live in a different world today that I grew up in, right? But if you're looking at the Olympics in Paris and stuff, you know that there's a lot of issue on, like transgender and sports and whatever. You can't discriminate on that either, right? Just take a note of that, right? So things like, I'm trying to find the word for it. Gender reassignment. That's the phrase they use, gender reassignment. And yes, I don't know if I should share this example. NEBOSH tell me I'm giving too much information anyway. But I think it's to make the lesson worthwhile. They did give me full marks, right? But you see, if you just read now, like you like you wouldn't connect with the reading, right? So I had a student in this, not this class, right? But in the recent years that had a gender reassignment, and she came back as a male. And for the life of me though, I can't remember the name. But she left the school and she passed a NEBOSH and stuff, right? And I had known
That
her
person
by,
is my in-law, actually. I know the person you're speaking about.
I wouldn't say the name, yeah, but
Please
I know
don't.
the person. Yeah, but I know her by her feminine name then. When she came and she said, no, I can't refer to her as by that name anymore. But for the life of me, see, when she was here, she was, or should we say she identified as a female. So that stuck in me. For the life of me, I could never remember the name she told me as her male self then would actually let it be. This is Trinidad, they're not talking about England, and I'm talking about Trinidad and Tobago. San Fernando, right here in Trinidad and Tobago, right? So please remember, we do have those laws here as well. And she was a good student. In fact, if you all have seen I think the icon picture for, I think it's the YouTube channel, she took that picture. We were on a job in Tobago, right? And she took that picture down in industrial estate anyway, right? And so, yeah, but at least when she was here, I call her the right term, but having passed now, I can't, but what the point is here is that that is a protected characteristic. We can't discriminate. If she was to come back to do another course, I'll have to learn her other name. I'll move on from there anyway, right? All right, folks, I'm moving on. All right, so the organization, I think we had covered this. Please look at your book, you'll almost see the same thing. What about the organization? And as I said, we kind of covered this, right? So the organization to what contributes to human factors is about the leaders, providing resources, developing a safety culture. It's about the managers, then kind of like what you all said. It's kind of the same culture, but with one other term with it. Right? Proper communication with the workforce, etc. Right? So here now, have the new one. What's the new one? The new one is the only one we added to make the term, instead of saying the definition for culture now, when you add this third one to it, you make up what is called human factors. So what is it? Job factors. The job factors is what are you doing? What is your task? Is it office-based? Is it moving, like repacking a warehouse? What is the task? What is your workload? So it's everything about the job, right? The environment where the work is being done. If you want, please make some sub-notes. So the environment is, does it have proper lighting? Is it outdoors or indoors? You can make some notes, and you know where I'm going with this, because I'll tell you I have an exam question here, right? Are there any drop surfaces? Like when you walk in, is it like a drop? Is it well paved? Is everything about the environment? Is it noisy? Is it dusty? Right? The job factors include the procedures for doing the job, the layout of controls and displays for doing a task, right? So if you're on a control panel, are you at an awkward posture there, right? Or are you comfortable with the layout? The keyboard, and I say keyboard, but it might meet maybe a control panel. Is it adjustable? Can you kind of tilt it up? Could you tilt it down? Is it adjustable, right? If you have to hold a mouse in your hand or a control, is your hand always like this? Because that has caused your hands to hurt, right? So it's all about the levers. It's all about all of that is the job then, right? The frequency of the work. Take some notes as we go. The frequency means how often you're doing the job. Think of somebody on a conveyor line, not a conga line, right? A conveyor line. Think of somebody in a conveyor line and they are loading, let's say, cases of beers or whatever you identify with, right? Soft drinks, right? Or wine, right? But you're loading cases of beers, but the beers are coming out from one conveyor line to another conveyor line, right? So how often do you have to kind of get that crate of beer or soft drink and put it to the other side, right? That's frequency. Is it 2 times a minute? Is it 1 time a minute? That's frequency. How often you're doing something? And you could think of this in a safety example too. Somebody loading cement into a cement mixer. Like how often is that being done, right? Is it continuous? It can't be continuous if it's cement, right? Concrete then, or mixing concrete, right? So how frequent are you doing your task? Duration is not the same as frequency. Frequency is how often. As I said, 2 times in a minute. Duration is how long, right? How long? Like, are you doing that task for the 8 hours of your day? Is it 4 hours of the day? Is it 12 hours of the day, right? Work patterns talk about the job. Now, do you have a break? If you want, I could suggest a break for you all. Let's say you'll have to remember. For anybody doing strenuous work activities, like I was going to go back to the concrete example, but if you're mixing cement, you probably need a better break than this, right? But this is something from the UK. So this is not about, this is if you're loading metal then, right? They say for every 50 minutes of work, you need to get 10 minutes of rest. But I do suppose if anybody here have ever what we call cast concrete, right? You need more break than that because it's more strenuous then, right? So this 5010 was given for like if you're loading, I guess parts, if you're loading parts into a container or you're unboxing parts, metal parts, parts of different sizes, but maybe short, not heavy pieces of pipes. For every 50 minutes of work, you need 10 minutes of rest. And they refer to this as the work rest cycle. See if you can take this on as a guide, the work rest cycle. And this is actually proposed by a psychologist, which is not in your course anyway, but we're talking about work patterns. So this is actually proposed by a psychologist, in the 19th century, the work rest cycle. So do you know, right, that the workday we have today was not the typical workday? Do you know it was like the British that proposed the 8 hours of work? It used to be work till 7 o'clock in the night. I don't know if you all know that, right? The typical workday will go till 7 o'clock in the night, but certain psychologists look at that and they realize like you get more done out of the workers over certain times now, right? Have you all ever seen one of my favorite Christmas movies, Christmas carols, maybe yours too? Have you all ever seen a Christmas Carol with Scrooge? Have you all ever seen that movie? Yeah, we all have because we grew up in the Caribbean and they show that on. If you haven't seen Scrooge, something is wrong with you all, right? So if you haven't seen Scrooge, there are many versions of it. But if you remember it, you remember the time that I think the apprentice is leaving Scrooge office. See if you could just picture it a bit, right? He was working late, and of course, this whole thing about bar humbug, and the guy wanted some coal or whatever for the furnace, right? But if you remember, he left late, right? So that the point they're trying to show you here is not 4 o'clock. Back in the day, it never had no thing about finishing 4 o'clock work. I have a work ethic that I work after 4. I don't know if you all know that, right? 4 o'clock for me, like I know start working. So that's why we have classes in the night. Like I don't really stop till about 8 o'clock. Sometimes if I have other work, I go till 10 o'clock, right? Close my laptop and go and sleep, right? But like I said, everybody's different, right? But the psychologists, right? Like what they realize is like giving a worker a break and finishing at 4 is kind of better anyway. Who's to say, right? I mean, who's to say back then to now anyway? I think everybody have been accustomed to the 4 hours, sorry, not the 4 hours, but finishing at 4. There are some companies in the UK finish at 5, right? They go like 9 to 5. That's still common around the world. It's not too common in the Caribbean here, right? The Caribbean, South America, we just go like 7 to 4, 7 to 4. But around the world, 9 to 5 is very popular. 9 to 5 is very popular. 9 to 5 may work in Trinidad. What do you all think? 9 to 5 for some companies to get rid of that traffic. Start 9, finish 5, right? I know BP was trying that out at time. I don't know how far that got into, but the point is here, work patterns then is really something. When you say work pattern, is not a vague term. It's 50 minutes, 10 minutes rest, or is 9 to 5 with a lunchtime, or is 7 to 4 with an hour lunch. But those things we know today, what we take for granted today, was not the way it was about 100 years ago, right? All right, tell me what you think. You understand in a bit? You understand work patterns? You understand? So if you want, I could tie the question in now, right? Let me see what's on the other slide here. Okay, I think we could tie it here because these things are not really, not too much of an exam here. This is just a concept. Watch it, you'll see. All of this is a concept, right? So remember, not every word could be tested. Not every, line could be tested, right? But there are things that are tested. So here the thing, right? I'm going back to the first slide. So here the thing, right? So different sit-ins people, I hope you're writing now, different sit-ins ask different things here. And I don't know if the students before didn't make notes or did they all sleep away because most of the classes are around this kind of time too. But like they will ask, what are the individual factors? And people will still go and put things on the organization. right? Then they will ask, what are the organizational factors? And people still go and put things on the individual. You can't mix it. If they ask you, what are the organizational factors that contributed to a poor safety culture? You have to get in your studies, right? Check your book. I'm on the same page as you. I'm on 318, I believe. Check out what they say about organizational factors. I'm seeing it. Sorry, it's page 19. Are you all seen it? Check your book if you get a minute, right? Page 319. The organizational factors, they have resources, right? So it means the organization must provide resources. I had it on my slide too. Look at there, right? Give me a minute, right? You see resources here, right? So when you read the case study, you have to say something like, in my opinion, I believe that the organization did not fully manage safety in terms of providing resources. And you'll have to prove the point, right? Sorry. You'll have to say, like, this is seen in the case study where it was mentioned, the workers requested additional training, but the safety manager said there was no money for training. See how easy that is? But the scariest one for me, or the scariest thing for me is that, well, when I say for me, it's like, you all don't go back to your notes. I don't know why, right? Because I've seen job factors too, and people go and they leave out everything, and they talk about everything else beside in the job. They talk about the individual age of the apprentice. No, that's not a job factor. You talk about the manager didn't care for the worker, that you will get it wrong. Hence, it have it on the slide, individual, organization, job. And the thing about job, if you realize, you see I put a lot here for the job, what how much I put here? Frequency is one by itself. Duration, it has two answers. Work pattern is another answer. Breaks is another answer. When I read environment, I started break it up. I tell you lighting, I tell you dust, I tell you floor level, I tell you change in level. Because you'll access 10, right? Anyway, to leave this exam focus a bit, I'm trying to see which one is more popular, out of the three of them. But I could tell you all of them have come before. I think organization is most popular, but maybe neck and neck with individual. Maybe there's one sitting apart. So please understand it. It's such a nice question. Hear what, right? I think I told you all, it's an open book exam. Don't be too hurried to finish the 7 questions now. And you finish it wrong. Take your time, right? If they give you a nice question, what is the comment on the organization influence? Take your time now. Open the slide, read out the slide, open the book, check it out a bit, get the ideas, draft out your answers, and then do the question, right? I had a student, sorry for these stories again, but you see, there's a way of creating a point now, right? A guy here told me he finished by 2 o'clock in the day. He failed. I thought he would have passed. The man failed. Now, finishing 2 o'clock doesn't mean you will fail, because I had a student that finished before lunchtime and he passed. But I should probably explain to you all why the person failed, right? And because, I don't want to create a fear in the class as well now, right? So to be honest, the reason why this one had failed was that he used an AI writing tool. So I know these things are so common now, like when I am doing my work sometimes and my Word documents, the AI will pop up and say if I want to use it, right? So NEBOSH has a software that picks up AI writing tool. It'll pick it up in your writing. So it pick it up in his writing, and I think that's probably why he finished. You know what an AI writing tool is, right? So you all know what it is? No? If you don't know, very good. God, I don't want to waste. You see, if I tell you, then you may go and try to figure out what it is. So if you don't know, very good. It means you would never go and use it, right? Anybody know what an AI writing tool is? If you don't know, keep it like that. Live in ignorance, right? Because the minute you go and you find out what it is and you attempt to use it, they will catch you, right? In short, write your notes for yourself. Write the thing I've been telling you all. You say it, in my opinion, a job factor that contributes, to the culture of the company is the task, right? First up, you say in the case scenario, it was mentioned that they were moving furniture by hand. It was a packing company. I'm just making this up. They're not really making it up. I'm remembering a past paper, right? They were packing furniture by hand. They were moving furniture manually. Say it how you does talk. Don't use an AI writer tool. Everybody understand that here, folks? I was saying to you all, we all like the thing about NEBOSH, globally recognized and top world organization, number one. But you don't understand what that means to like number one HSC organization in the world, right? Number one HSC qualification in the world. But then it means they're good. And if you feel you smart, them smarter than you, as we will say in the region here, right? So no AI writing tool, please, even if it is to assist with a sentence construction, don't use it. Just, if you spell the word wrong, leave it just so. They will understand what it means. I don't know if you know that, right? Because spelling would, you could use a spelling tool, right? But an AI writing tool is not a spelling tool. An AI writing tool, I'm frightened to tell you all you see, will actually write the sentences for you. See how I say in those lines, it'll write it out for you. Yeah, I'll leave it right there. I won't say anything about that. But don't use anything like that. Just do it for yourself, right? I'm not too sure if in years to come, because AI writing tools and stuff may become very popular. I'm not too sure if like the way technology works then, right? That things like everybody using a cell phone today, right? Before you couldn't go to school with a cell phone, right? So, the garbage man have a cell phone, the homeless man may have two, three cell phones. So everybody have one, right? So I don't know if in years to come, 20 years or 10 years from now, that they would allow a certain percentage of AI writing tool. Now they don't allow it at all, right? But like most modern Microsoft systems, there, like they package and come in with the AI writing tool, right? But NEBOSH don't want any AI writing assistance there, where you are, like where those 4 or 5 lines are being self-constructed by the AI writing tool. Again, if you don't know what it is, just live in ignorance. After this class, go and watch a movie or something. Forget everything I tell you here, other than the work itself, right? And you'll be safe. Just remember what I tell you. Write your work for yourself, and you'll be safe, right? Because the big thing is, a lot of students are saying, no, we didn't plagiarize, but they use an AI writing tool, right? And the software picking it up, the NEBOSH software picking it up, and people are being penalized with, meaning you're not going to pass the exam. Some people are being banned from the exams and stuff like that, right? Anyway, see if you have any questions on the past paper itself, which was the job, the organization, and the individual. Can you do a question if you see a question on it? Just make sure you read the question carefully to figure out what the focus is, and don't switch gears then. If they ask job, don't talk about the individual. Stick to the job. If you're not getting it, stick to the hardware. Watch it. Control, stick to the display screen. Stick to the hardware, the job itself. Don't talk about the individual. The minute you say the individual doing the job, you get it wrong, because the focus is the job and not the individual. Tell me what you think a little bit, because it's a lot easier from this. Other than this, I do have another passive. This is what the question is. When I said this, those three now, anyone could come. Tell me what you think. If you're okay, you're alive, you're waking, you're sleeping. And I won't move on until you say something.
So the last paper you sent first had a question on individual factors.
Oh, very good. Very good. I think to be like, I would want you all maybe this week here. I think I want to put back a little focus on assignments. What y'all think? I know so maybe a question I got Michelle talking about, I could check out and see if we could find one, or that same one. And I would normally do it by Monday, right? After today, after class, I have some appointments here. Sunday for you is a rest day. I told you all about me already. Sunday I work. I have 2 classes on Sunday. And apparently I have a meeting in the morning with a company, right? Anyway, so Monday, I will try. I want to check back your writing, right? For you all that have hope, what does that mean? Well, look at where we are. We half of the course, right? 3.4 is like getting into 3.4 today, next week. That's like half of the course. So it have hope for you all, right? The writing isn't bad enough. It's not like you're writing for a thesis. It's just give the point tight into the case study, right? So I think I want to get back a little focus on assignments this week. Now, when I say that, it means I am going to follow up on it. You know, some of you all have been doing it at odd times then, which we still take. Just remember that. Because this is a class assignment, it's not really meant for NEBOSH. It's actually meant to help you. I would take it beyond Thursday, right? I would take it beyond Thursday, but it would be nice to collect them on Thursday so we could correct them and give you a feedback on Saturday. That's what I like to do. I would say, look, kid, I think 80% of the class got it right, but I still felt that some people were not tying in the lines properly. I think we could do that. It have hope for you all because I have another class. They have exam next month. They still have time. That's about 4 weeks, right? But you have more hope than them then, right? In terms of getting any writing up to speed where that is concerned anyway, right? Let's show the run out these here. These I said is not an exam question. If you want to take a look at the book, you may have to turn the page. These are just concepts. You see page 20, you have things about competence, skills, personality, attitude, risk, perception, right? So I'll take it from here. These are just part of the psychology I was talking to you about, right? Aptitude is a person's capacity for learning something. An aptitude is an innate ability to do a certain kind of work. Aptitudes may be physical or mental, right? So like you would know yourself, or you should know yourself. If you're young, if you're under 30, if you're under 30, you may still have some time, right? Like nobody's really forcing you to develop your aptitude or know what it is, right? But you know what somebody told me once? Somebody told me, like what you find yourself naturally doing and you're naturally good at, that's your aptitude, right? So, you know, if you find you are doing something and it's uncomfortable, that's probably not your aptitude. Your aptitude is your innate, God-given ability to do a certain kind of work, right? And I could share about me, but I wouldn't because you're fed up here about me, right? So I could always remember, I think I'll share this story with you before with Michael Jordan. For those of us who know Michael Jordan in this generation anyway. But Michael Jordan was good at what?
Well, basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah, of course, right? So, but do you know what he did? Anybody remember what he did? Michael Jordan stopped playing basketball a while ago. Anybody remember what he decided to play?
Baseball.
Yeah,
Golf.
he left basketball to play baseball because he said his father wanted him to be a baseball player, but he wasn't good at it. Yeah, there was actually a movie, the first Space Jam. Of course, I know they had another Space Jam recently. That was good too. I saw both Space Jam anyway, right? Somebody say, Keisha said my aptitude doesn't include documentation. I can't help you with that, Keisha. I I can't help it. Everybody, so you would know yourself, right? You would know yourself. But it is hope that life, God, kind of leads you down that correct path, that your aptitude, like you get into a job where you could use your aptitude and your God-given ability, your gift, your skills, right? And like Michael Jordan, for those of us who know the story, he wasn't good at it. And the first page, I'm actually told the story of him having to come back. Some of the clips from that movie was actually the real clips of when he was playing basketball, when he came back for his first time into basketball. So the point is this, he was uncomfortable. He knew he was uncomfortable, but he was trying to do the work of, like what his father wanted him to do now, right? But that's everybody here. So you all have an aptitude. It is hope, like I said, that life will carry you through that path, that you find your aptitude and you find that task. Because the day they say you find it, the day is they say you find that you're good at. So if it's opening a business, right? If it is teaching, if it is consulting, I just using some things, right? If it is whatever, working for yourself, if it's selling something, selling an article, selling a product, right? Providing some sort of encouragement. You know, I see making a lot of monies now. I'm thinking about doing it, but I probably will be a bore at it because I tend to put people to sleep. I see a lot of videos making a lot of monies now in terms of encouragement, like like positive videos, positive thinking videos. So if it's like that, you created a 3 minutes, TikTok, putting it out there, right? But it's something you had like, we can't tell you what to do then. Like for me, you all know my aptitude is teaching. There's no doubt about that. At one time, I wasn't doing it. For those of us who know, I was in Massey. And I felt it. I felt that burn. I felt the burn where I knew what I was doing and I was good at it, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. Right? So mine is teaching, training, has always been. Even when I was cutting grass, I think I told her that when I was working state-owned company, I was cutting grass and thinking about teaching. You know your aptitude. Some of you only have it inside of you. Whatever you have inside of you, a business plan, right? Something you want to do, you want to start something, that is your aptitude. But the day you find it, you'll end up like me. You'll never get a rest because it's something you enjoy doing then. That's what they say, when you find your gift, right? You know, some people say you stop working. Actually, no, you work more. But the thing is, you don't feel like you're working more because remember, it's you, right? These are the ones in the book. The attitude, to act consistently towards a particular object or situation based on an individual's learned experience. Your behavior is an individual's action, or your action due to your attitude and your perceived environment. Your perception is the process of interpreting information through your senses. Let me read on and you'll see something here, right? But besides Misha, because Misha was here before, anybody could read this for me? Anybody was here before who saw this before on a slide before? Anybody could read this for me? Quick, quick, quick.
A bird in the bush.
Okay, very good. Anybody could start, I'll leave this one. Anybody could start reading this for me beside those folks who saw this before? Just start reading it. It don't have to be Aiden again. Anybody else could have a go at it. Start. Anybody could. That sounds like background noise.
So I think I could make it out. I couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading. The phenomena power of a human mind, according to a researcher of Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess and you can still read it without a problem. Finish it so
This is
I could
because. Yeah, go ahead.
Right,
This is because, yeah.
the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Amazing, huh? And I always thought spelling was important.
Very good, right? So what's the point of this exercise? Remember, I said I do have no past papers here, right? But you know, we had to teach the definitions and them in your book, right? So we had to keep on teaching. So the exercise here is that initially when you look at it, you probably thought you couldn't read it. So that's perception, right? That's perception. But any perception would have been changed because somebody volunteered to read it and it was read well, right? So there is a concept here, which is we can change your perception. Please remember, not your personality, yeah? We can't change your perception. Do you know? I've told many stories, right? Do you know that I am a quiet person by nature? Some people say I don't stop talking. But do you know I never spoke? Like throughout high school, I was always very quiet. I was the quietest. I used to always get, I was never bright. I think I told you all that, right? So some people, I remember a guy came to the office and he said, "Hey, you look like a naps. You're naps." Back in the day, I probably couldn't even spell naps, right? Right? I used to come back in my school. This is primary school. I did start to study in secondary school, right? But I used to come second to last. And that was good for me because as long as it wasn't last, I was happy. You're laughing, right? I have my report book still, right? But the thing isn't me, right? I am very determined. I was never the brightest person, right? And I had to work from the time I was young. My mom was sick. Father father still alive. Contractor, but he was really a laborer, right? So when I say I used to cut grass, that is the work we are accustomed doing. And for Petrotrin back in the day, you'll go and you'll cut the grass around Petrotrin. I don't know if anybody here know where it is. The office is in Paliseco. There was one on a road called 10A Road. The road is still there. But the road can't move. I mean, the road is still there. I don't know if Daria knows a 10A road is coordinator. Yeah, but the office rot now though. The office not there anymore, right? But we used to cut around that. I'll cut around that office. There was another one in Santa Flora Quarry. We'll cut the grass, and that's the work I knew. But the thing is with me though, I told I was never the brightest, but I was always the most determined. Right? And even like I said, like today, Shadrach, today I had 3 degrees, graduated first from Costa. You all know the story. Shadrach Safety Institute is the #1 NEBOSH provider in the region. This is an audit. This is not me telling you that, and that is NEBOSH telling me that, right? So that's me. Like I would never give up then, right? So like if somebody had a perception, like even when I applied to be a course provider, right? This was more than 10 years ago. NEBOSH told me no, they said I'm too young. But I didn't take that no, right? It took me a year, kept applying, and I got it. You understand? So like my perception then is always that I will get it done. If you tell me no, I will just find another way to get it done. That's me, right? And hopefully, like I said, if of course, if you are intelligent by nature, very good, right? Intelligence and determination go hand in hand, right? I think if you have more determination, though, that's how I say you could actually change somebody's behavior. You could change somebody's attitude, right? So you could alter a person's perception by providing appropriate information, instruction, training, and supervision. A person's attitude towards something can be changed if your perception is changed. So if you believe you could do this, you believe you could pass NEBOSH, you believe like you could see yourself as a consultant, you could see yourself as a safety manager, but it would happen because that's your perception, right? Behavior can be changed if your attitude is changed. So then you start talking different. You're not just talking about safety, people wasting time. If you're using safety as the example then, right? You start talking safety. And the same thing in the companies. And what I was saying, this is why, like you here today, you are being influenced by the words on the screen, but also by me. And hopefully it does create some sort of impact then where even if you're taught passing NEBOSH was just about getting a job, it wasn't really about saving a life, right? It was just a job, it's just a good career. And it is, but it's also about saving a life. It's also about making an impact. You understand? I think I told her for orientation day, HSE is one of the most noble professions you have because you're being paid for it, but then you're saving somebody's life at the end of the day, right? Right? So what they do is what I do in here. If NEBOSH should look at this lesson, what I just did there was propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda is a mass amount of information that is organized to influence you. That's why I tell all the stories, right? Propaganda is an organized dissemination of information to assist or damage a political cause in the political arena. But if we talk about it for safety, then propaganda, the stories, the videos, the slides is all meant to influence you to be a better safety person or even to get in the field of safety, right? Why propaganda? And then they do it in the companies too. Why do you think they have safety meeting on a Monday morning? First thing you hear, safety meeting. In some companies, every morning. Some companies twice for the week, Monday and Thursday, right? When you come to the safety meeting, they're showing you a video. Why do you think they're doing that, right? They want to change your behavior towards safety, but the way to do it is through your senses. If you go back to perception, right? Perception, the process of interpreting information through your senses. So you're hearing the word, you're seeing the writing. That is perception. I did tell you there's some psychology involved here. Right? Why propaganda? Why have a safety meeting? Why have a safety week? Why AmCham having a safety week in the Hyatt or they having a safety week in the Marriott next year in Guyana, the 25th or something in February, right? So you want to raise motivation, productivity, safety awareness, generating that desired attitude and behavior, reinforcing a positive safety culture, altering your perception, right? The much of people have gotten to safety because of these classes. Left teaching and got into safety, left production departments and got into safety, and they are happier today, right? Of course, if you do have all of this, you do achieve your targets, accident rates could be lowered, sickness rates could be, lowered as well, right? So are you all familiar with AmCham and Safety Week and stuff like that? They have it in the Hyatt. No, it's free. You get a lot of free things. They may have it in September. AmCham safety week is not very higher. They have one in Guyana. The one for this year went already though. There's one February next year, right? So why have a safety week in a company, or why have a national safety week? Like Amtram is a national safety week, right? So used to promote health and safety in the workplace, used to generate a desired attitude and behavior, can be used to adjust, listen to the word, can be used to adjust an employee's perception. That is psychology. When you're talking about adjusting somebody's perception, that's psychology, right? In other words, then, to make a long story short, those of us who know about the safety week and the safety campaigns and all what I am doing here too is trying to brainwash you. Yeah, I'm trying to brainwash you, but for a good cause. If that people try to brainwash you for a bad cause, give or take, certain musical artists that have been released from prison, not all the times, but you know, but I trying for the good cause, right? Promote a positive safety culture, get you into a better career, get you into a better life, right? Encourage employees' participation, right? Anyway, the last slide here. Now, this one is diploma. You wouldn't see this in your book. What's your book? You see this. This is diploma, that's diploma, that's diploma, that's diploma, right? But why I put it 4 is because what they say in a safety week, I'll just sum it up in one sentence, right? In a safety week, if you could find out what the employee wants and you cater to that, you could reduce this. I'll say that again. I did tell you a sentence, right? In planning a safety week, if you could find out what the employee wants, like they want money, they want to be praised, they want positive reinforcement, right? You could cater to those needs. Like if you have a safety week, I told them from what I did, I will give out prizes. Yeah, so who wants a prize? You'll get a prize. Not everybody wants a prize. A top manager will come to a safety week and he don't want a prize. He or she don't want a prize. What they want recognition. They want when the safety week finish, somewhere somebody mentioned it right up in the company newsletter or intranet that Frank, the CEO, was very active in the safety week. We express our gratitude to him. He liked that. Some people like that. Some people like to hear their name called, right? So different people like different things. But if you could find out what they want, what would I telling you? Then you'll reduce this. You'd actually reduce human failures. If you come to a safety week then and you learn something, then we reduce human failures, we reduce errors and violations, we reduce the chance of you making mistakes. So that's why I put it here. But this is the psychology being linked to the diploma level. Don't know if you understand today's class. This is a NEBOSH question for the diploma. It's not really for your level, but I just put the chart because it kind of linked. And like if you look at your page, right, page 20, we have more competent workers, we have better skilled workers, well then you're going to have less human failures, right? So that's the end of today's lesson. I want to start not chapter, but 3.4 briefly. Yeah? See if you have any questions on it. The thing is, I don't really have any questions here for exam. We just had to finish off the chapter then, right? About competence, skills, personality, attitude, risk perception. We had to finish it off, right? But I guess prior to the pandemic, they would say things like, before the pandemic and not now, they would say, define the term perception. But now it's an open book exam, so they don't ask that. They would say, what's the relationship between perception, behavior, and attitude? Now they don't ask those things anymore, right? So if you have any questions and ask away, I am done. I'm going to kind of just bring up the 3.4. What I would do, though, I may just talk you through it. Or I would direct you to a page and I'll still talk you through it, right? I wouldn't probably read. I may read 2-3 slides and then kind of bring it to an end, right? So the next, if you turn your page in your book after 3.3, of course, is 3.4. And that lines up to page, is it 25 in your textbook? Risk assessment. See if you've seen it in your book. These are the objectives of the session. Let me just bring it up here. We won't go too far, but you see the last thing we did had no past papers now. So 3.4 in the textbook. I think it's 3.5 on the syllabus, if I'm not mistaken. The learning outcomes here is to facilitate meeting towards the following themes: legal requirement for doing a risk assessment, the aim and objective of a risk assessment, identifying hazards. I think I'll stop there because I think we wouldn't really go further than that, right? Let's take a look at it here. The revision is what we just said. How could safety culture be improved? You improve yourself or you improve managers, because culture is equal to you and the managers, right? So I don't know. So you want to line this up with your book, or you just want to look at the slide and have me focus on the exam part of it, right? If you have your book, page 29, you will see the same thing. As we know, everything in the UK have a law. So there's a law for doing risk assessments, right? It's on page 29. It's you'll see the acronym MHSWR. So that stands for the Management of Health and Safety Work Regulation 1999. Regulations 3 of that law said the employer must do a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. You can find it on page 29 if you want, but it's looking at you on the slide. Doing a risk assessment is also implied under Section 2.3 of the HSW Act 1974. To be honest, this is not a question. If it is, open the book, open the PowerPoint, you'll find it. In short, the way to say this in the local context is this is the law for doing a risk assessment. That's how we say this in Trinidad and probably in Guyana. If they ask you what is the law for doing a risk assessment, look at here. Regulations 3 of the Management of Health and Safety Work Regulation 1999. That's it. But they won't answer that. You know why? Anybody can tell me why? Because they do not ask what? They don't ask. Finish a sentence for me. What kind of questions they don't ask?
What is
Right, they don't ask what is question. So we could go to the next slide, right? They don't ask what is question. You may have to go back to your page now. You have to go back to the start at 3.4. You see they define what is a hazard. We did this already. Page 25. No, 26. What's a hazard? A hazard is the potential of any substance to cause harm. Can include articles, substances, plant or machines, method of work, the working environment, and other aspects of work organization. What is risk? Page 26, the bottom of page 26. Risk is the likelihood of harm occurring and its severity, the likelihood of the potential of harm from a hazard being realized, and risk have a formula, likelihood by severity. What's a risk assessment? A risk assessment is the process of identifying preventative and protective measures by evaluating the risk that you have arising from the hazard, taking into account how good your controls are and whether or not you need to do any more. I cannot say it in my own words, right? So the process of identifying preventative and protective measures by evaluating the risk arising from a hazard. Think of somebody on a height, looking at the controls you have in place for them, and thinking about if you need to do more. That's the process of a risk assessment. Again, they're not going to ask you what is a risk assessment. They all know what is or what are questions, right? The objectives of a risk assessment, I saw this in your book too. It's on page 29. You may need to go back there a bit. So why do a risk assessment? Why? Well, we know it's the law, right? So that's the first point. Watch it. By the way, it's law in Trinidad too. Part 2, if you want to know that, of the OSHAC in Trinidad and Tobago here. Section 25. 25 have a lot of points too, but section 25 should cover it. Part 2 of the OSHAC of Trinidad and Tobago says the same thing, right? To do a risk assessment. All right, so the objective of a risk assessment, why do it? To comply with the law, to ensure the risk is low or acceptable, to fulfill a moral duty of care to employees, to prevent workplace accidents, to reduce the direct and indirect costs associated with an accident, right? I'm going to leave this slide based on the time, and I want to focus on something more for the project. 23 minutes past, right? Hence the need for that. So I'll pick this up here. I was going to say next week, but I prefer pick up the risk assessment where we leave it. We'll come back to this slide, so I'm going down a bit, I'm going down a bit, I'm going down a bit, and I'll show you where it is in the book too. All of this is just information. None of that is exam. But this one is, right? So let's try to find this one in your book. Sorry, I think I went further there, right? So if you can find this in your book, you need to highlight that. It's page 30. I'll tell you about it and I'll tell you how we have to learn it and how, well, not learn it, but how we have to use it in a bit. Page 30. So off the record and off exams, I think you should learn this. The reason is that, well, this is what safety people does do. Like we do risk assessments for a company. But like you wouldn't want to pass NEBOSH. It is an open book exam, right? So they really had to learn it. But you wouldn't want to pass NEBOSH and then they ask you to do a risk assessment and you don't know how. In safety, we kind of refer to this as the back of your hand. I don't know if you ever heard that. Like risk assessment is at the back of your hand. So like you have to know these steps. I'm going to just read out these steps to you, right? There are many acronyms to remember in it, but you don't have to remember it for exam. But what I'm telling you, you should learn this for yourself because when you get out there in a company, what are you going to do? Well, I'll tell you, you'll be doing risk assessments. That's part of the job of a safety, right? So I'll read them out for you, whichever version you're looking at, the book or the slides is the same thing to me. Step 1, identify the hazard. There are 5 steps to doing a risk assessment. Step 2, decide who might be harmed and how. Step 3, evaluate the risk to decide if your precautions, and precautions is another word for control. So evaluate the risk to decide if the controls are adequate or not adequate. And if they're not adequate, you need to do more. So you may want to finish up that line for me. Evaluate the risk to see what the risk is. In other words, if it's high, you have to reduce that risk because it's not adequate. You need to record your findings and you need to review the findings, right? So the acronym for this is not an exam, because remember it's an open book test. For you who going out there for an interview, if they ask you one of the questions, well, how are we supposed to do a risk assessment, right? The acronym people use is this, IDEA, but it have some double E's and double R's in it, right? So this is the acronym people use to remember it. But the good news is maybe your company will have it on a form for you already, right? So identify the hazard, the IDs identify the hazard. The first E here is estimate the risk. Some people put an S here, so remember ES. This one is evaluate the risk, record, and review. Yeah, these are R to the back here as well, right? The point is learn it, right? I messed up. Learn it for you. Forget the exam. I mean, not forget the exam, but not everything is exam then. Some things is for you as a safety person, right? But let's talk about the exam now. Let's talk about the exam now, because I have limited time too, right? 4 minutes. So listen to this, right? I'll pick this up next. You see these steps here? Your risk assessment project, which is after next week, I said we can probably get into that. I'll be able to show it next week. In fact, what I may do, I may send you the forms this week. So like when I look at it, you can actually see the form, but we probably won't make a full start or a proper start until the 17th, but you will start seeing the project sheets from next week, right? What you're really doing this. You see these headings here? But you see the steps? The steps are the headings on the form. It's a risk assessment form. So if it's a risk assessment form and these are the steps in an RA, these are the headings on the form. Like the first column is to identify the hazard. The second column, you put who could be harmed and how. The third column kind of different. The third column, they have the precautions in it. The fourth column, you have further controls, which is still part of part 3. The fifth column is they want a time scale, right? And the sixth column is they want who is to do it. That's the NEBOSH project. I think there may be, let me see if not, I'll have to send you, there may be a version, no. It'll be in book 2. Which some of y'all probably don't know where you put that book, right? Yeah. Anybody know where their book 2 is at? No, okay. So for next week class, you bring out book 2, right? You bring out book 2 for next week class. But I'll send you the project forms, and I'll most likely send you an assignment question this week as well, because I told you I want to kind of get back in that, right? So we have started 3.4. I am happy. It's just about 2:30, so we'll stop here today, and I'll pick it up next week. Next week, Saturday, right? Any questions, folks? Let me stop the recording to get the register done.